It happened again, everybody. The Washington Wizards have lost 10 games in a row for the third year in a row. Frustration spoils over for a lot of these fans, but tonight it also did for head coach Brian Keefe.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, you're locked on to the Washington Wizards. We're part of our family. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network in the nation. Alongside the DC Sports content creating savant, Abdullah Ayubi, I'm Ben Strober, and I cover all things DC Sports for 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980. Before we get started today, we are brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Wizards drop it in Houston, 10 losses in a row for this Wizards team. That's the third year in a row where the Wizards have gone on a double-digit losing streak. Last year, of course, the two 16-game losing streaks. They did it as well in the first year of the rebuild. AB, you knew something like this would be possible the way the team was constructed and where the Wizards are as an organization, but it never feels good to be in this position right here.
Yeah, 100%. It doesn't feel good, Ben. And I'll say one positive is I did fix my mic, so audio issues shouldn't be as bad as you guys say in the comments. But unfortunately, we're reporting today the Wizards lost their 10th game in a row. And Ben, it got ugly in that third quarter, or in that second quarter when the Wizards were down by 29. And we kind of knew that going into this game. This Houston team, Ben, they are so freaking loaded with Alperen Şengün, Kevin Durant, Thompson, Derek Eason, Steven Adams. I mean, rebounding-wise, they can rebound the ball, they can shoot the ball. But, I mean, the Wizards, just a young squad. The talent gap was there. You didn't want to see – you expected this kind of game, how it was going to turn out. But, again, you want to see that competitive spirit from the Wiz kids. But tonight, again, it was just – it was frustrating. In the third quarter, I think it was Houston Rockets put a shot, 3 from the corner. I forgot who it was, but he missed it, got his own rebound, put it up, and then Brian Keefe, within a minute of the third quarter, calls a timeout. So, again, for this Wizards squad, 10 losses in a row, you're hoping that you can have some lessons that you can learn from this. But for us Wizards fans or just anyone out there that supports the squad, it's like, at what point do you say, what's the difference between this year and last year? I understand we see some development, but playing as a team, 10 games in a row, it's just not going to cut it.
Absolutely. There's some positives I want to talk about as we roll through the episode, and we're going to give you guys a chance to let it all out in the third and final segment today, as we always do here post-game on Locked On Wizards. One thing I wanted to touch on, the effort overall from this team. I know there's going to be the ebbs and flows that come with a super young team. You have 12 guys under the age of 24 on this squad. It's going to be tough to get the consistent effort on an 82-game basis, and you brought it up. 37 seconds into that second half, Coach Keefe calls a timeout, and he absolutely goes off on the team on the bench. Anthony Gill was involved. Assistant coach David Vanterpool was involved in that. And we know those conversations were regarded to effort. And I'll give Keefe and the team some credit because the effort was better throughout the second half. I feel like Houston was kind of sleepwalking a little bit throughout the entirety of the second half after they put up 81 points in that first half, which is a season high the Wizards have allowed in the first half. Not the season high they've allowed for points in a half period. That was 88 against Charlotte in home in the second half, but a really poor defensive effort in the first half. And I want to get into the team's effort overall. Why did it have to get to the point where Coach Keefe had to lay into them? And that's why I feel like that was a focal point of this game for me, because they started off kind of fast in this one early on, and the wheels fell off the track very, very quickly in this thing. And, you know, everybody within the organization tonight was able to acknowledge that that was the main problem. They interviewed him, David Vanterpool, I'm talking about, the assistant coach of the Wizards, at halftime. Megan McPeak asked him, said, what do you guys need to do better defensively? He said it starts with effort. We haven't had enough effort on that side of the basketball. And it was very evident in the way they were playing. They were getting beat on the back of the baseline. Guys were getting behind them. They were really struggling to rebound the ball. They weren't boxing out. They were doing almost everything wrong defensively in that first half, and they cleaned things up by quite a big margin in the second half and ended up outscoring Houston in that second half and ended up finishing +7 in the rebound margin for the second half, not in the game overall because of how bad the disparity was early on in this one. But it's just frustrating that, the guys sometimes are having to be begged to get that effort on a night in, night out basis. I'm not sure why it took Keefe sending them all on the bench 37 seconds into the half to get them to play with some fire under them, because they clearly just didn't have it throughout the first half of this game, Abdullah.
The second chance points, man, I mean, it was killing Washington, and I understand the struggles of guarding a guy like Kevin Durant. Keyshawn George was given the assignment. I think they even threw Cam Whitmore. I think it was in the second quarter when the team decided to go into zone defense. They just try to change things up. And going into this game, I was thinking that if Şengün gets the ball, if Durant gets the ball, you have to send a double because, again, with the small ball lineup, they're going to be running out there. And then at one point, you saw Keyshawn George out there playing center. They just got outmatched physically and defensively. Reed Shepherd, Ben, he had 21 points. I mean, he had, it seemed when I was watching the game, he scored the ball every time he shot it from beyond the arc. He is a sniper, and his development has gone really well in Houston. It was a struggle, and let's not forget this Houston Rockets team is going to be a real threat in the West, but also for the Wizards, you're losing your 10th game in a row, and I think right now it shadows a lot of these young guys' confidence, where it's like last year we had 2 losing streaks of 16 games in a row. This year our goal was to not have double-digit game losing streaks, but it's just frustrating. I think Keyshawn George, I was very happy about him almost getting 10 assists, almost a double-double. He finished with 16.7 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. Again, guarding a guy like Kevin Durant, it's not easy. Not many people in the world can do it. But he was going out there and very physical to the lane. Had some nice layups. And I think Cam Whitmore was also a guy who is just so freaking athletic and so fast. I mean, he just jumps out the roof. There was a play where, I think late in the game, where Bub Carrington threw an inbound pass to Cam, and he almost caught it, and it looked like it was going to the roof. There's some glimpses of hope that you can take throughout the season, Ben. But again, when you look at the final score, 135-112, it's just a little frustrating. I think you're muted, Ben.
Houston entered this game as one of the best rebounding teams. I think they were number 1 in rebounding, if I remember correctly, entering this one. So you knew it was going to be a tough night for a Wizards team that really struggled against the offensive glass, gave up a season-high 25 offensive rebounds against Detroit the other night. And those issues just kind of persisted as it went on tonight. 20 offensive rebounds for Houston overall. But I want to go back in time to the first quarter and where the wheels really fell off the track for this Wizards team. And a big part of the reason why, AB, we talk about the defensive effort. The problem with this team is they get into foul trouble super early on in the game. Keyshawn George, that's been a problem for him. But everybody was struggling fouling this Houston team early in the game. Houston had already attempted over 10 free throws in the first 8 minutes of the game. KD ended up going on a 9-0 run by himself, and the Wizards were letting the defense get behind them consistently under the rim. So by the time you get to the end of the first quarter, you've allowed 40 points. Houston's gotten to the line for 14 attempts, and you're being out-rebounded 19-5. So essentially, and a 9 offensive rebound difference as well for Houston at that point. You've already taken yourself out of the game early on with that. And the wheels just fall off the track from there because you're kind of unable to make any adjustments to that point because Houston just so much more physical. They impose themselves. They're great moving the basketball. We just got lost so many different times. Defensively, didn't have anybody that could really match up one-on-one with a lot of these guys. The drive and kick game was killing Washington. The one thing I do want to bring up was kind of a perfect embodiment of what Wizards basketball has been like in terms of effort this year was at the beginning of the second quarter. Whitmore was in the game, and he gets a steal and lays it in transition. And you think, okay, good to see Whitmore get something done on the defensive end. Nice bucket to go in transition. And within 2 seconds, they're already beat down the floor. Outlet pass on the wing, three-pointer for Houston. Nobody gets back, and they're just wide open. Things like that cannot happen when you're this Washington team that's trying to compete night in, night out. I was pleased with the way they competed the other night against Detroit. And in the second half of this game, I thought they looked a little bit better. The effort at least picked up after Keefe called that timeout in frustration so early on in the second half. But it's frustrating that it gets to the point where Keefe really has to, make it that apparent. Maybe Keefe had to do it early on in the game. Maybe it's something motivation-wise before the game starts. I don't know what it takes to get a full 4 quarters of effort from these guys because we just haven't quite seen it consistently. When you do see it, the team looks good. They're fun to watch. It's not as frustrating. Tonight was just a game where once it hit halftime, it became a little bit more of a chore to watch because of what was going on. There's some other good things that we'll talk about as well as we go throughout the program here, AB, but it's just tough to see the team take itself out of it so early.
And I think, Ben, they were fighting back. That third quarter, they brought it back to, if I'm not mistaken, 13 or 10. So it was almost go ahead. Was that wrong?
You're good. You're good.
Okay, yeah. I was saying to myself, like, they can find a way to claw themselves back in, but again, this Houston Rockets team, the talent gap, like I mentioned, they just know how to play offensive basketball. Defensively, they're just very tenacious. And I think it is a huge learning curve for this Wizards squad because ultimately this Houston team not too long ago was also were losing a lot of games, and they found a way to draft really well and nice free agency signings. There's a big reason why Kevin Durant came to this Houston squad because he wanted to go to a team where they could win. And again, Alfred Şengün, Ben, you and I mentioned, I mean, he is the closest thing to Nikola Jokic right now. And Alex Sarr tonight, I know we're going to get into him, but he had 25 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. But there were times where Şengün was definitely taking him to school. But that's going to happen. And Alex Sarr, that's definitely a learning curve for him. But just overall in general, Ben, giving up 135 points. I mean, defensively, this whole offseason, the discussion of playing defense, I just don't know where do you point the finger to when it comes to the blame, because is it the scheme? Is it effort? A combination of with second chance points? Defensively, right now, Washington, I don't know. I want to look at the stats, Ben, because how does, within these first 10 games, this Wizards team stack against the previous years of this Wizards squad defensively? Because how many points per game were they giving last year and the year before? Because right now, they're a dead last in giving up points per game.
Yeah, they're not any better defensively. It's not a secret, and I think it was pretty intentional by the way the team was constructed. They weren't going to be very good defensively. I know they preached it throughout the entirety of the offseason. That is what was sold to us, but I think we were kind of sold false dreams right there. And I understand, like, they want to preach that as an organization to say, like, that's where they want to be eventually. But, you know, with Bilal out especially, when really only 2 of your players on the roster are competitive night in, night out defensively, I just don't know how you're going to compete with an offense like Houston on a night in, night out basis. This Wizards team was built to lose enough games to keep its draft pick. And now, you know, they've done a good job at that goal so far. They've lost 10 games in a row, obviously. They're 1-11 on the season. I start to wonder at this point, maybe you see it like last year where you kind of stack up a lot of these losses early on in the season, maybe in the last quarter of the season there, if they only have maybe even under double-digit wins at that point, you start to see them make a slight run, try to compete a little bit more because the wins at that point probably won't hurt them from losing their draft pick. But still, it's tough to see the team get into this position here, AB. Like, I make the argument that you can lose a lot of these games without it being so non-competitive at times. That's the biggest thing for me. The end of that first half was really, really hard to watch for this Wizards team. Guys weren't boxing out. They're getting out hustled. The Rockets closed the half on a 20-6 run. It's just tough to watch at times, and I understand where the frustrations come from within the fan base, within Keefe, but at the end of the day, I put some of the onus here on Brian Keefe. I think he's got to be better in terms of making some of these adjustments early on in the first half to avoid this game getting away and avoid the effort from falling the way it did. Why did it take until the second half of this game for the team to pick up its effort? I wonder.
Also, again, I know it wasn't going to be a big deal if he played a lot of minutes, but Justin Champagnie only getting 3 minutes, Ben. We always talk about how he symbolizes winning basketball. I don't understand why he's only playing 3 minutes. But again, you lose by 23 points, so I don't know if it makes a big difference.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we continue to break down what we saw tonight. We'll get into some of the positives we saw, Keyshawn George and Alex Sarr specifically, and a couple other things before we let it all out for you guys in the third segment. We'll be back. The holiday season is right around the corner, and that means it's time to get your home ready, whether you need more seating for guests, cozy new lines, or fun serveware for a holiday hosting. Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to make your space shine. And the best part, you don't have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long with up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. I recently upgraded my dining chairs and rugs from Wayfair, and it completely transformed the room. I couldn't believe how fast everything shipped just in time for the holidays. Browsing through their site, it's easy to find pieces that actually fit my style. Nothing generic, just quality designs that feel personal. If you've ever hosted family for the holidays, you know how much of a difference a few new touches can make. Wayfair makes that easy. Don't miss out on the early Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com now to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. Sale ends December 7th. Oof, 10 losses in a row. I said it all summer, AB. I didn't think this team would go on a double-digit losing streak this year. I didn't want to see this team go on a double-digit losing streak this year, but here we are, my friend.
Yeah, and you're 6 games away from tying the largest from last year. And right now you have a good chance of breaking the streak because you have Brooklyn coming up because they've been struggling as well. But again, Ben, it's just a night where you lose by 23. It is frustrating. There were some bright spots that we'll get into. Trey Johnson back in the state of Texas, he had 12 points. I love Ben on transition where when he's on the wing, one dribble, sidestep or step back three. Those are money. But again, in this type of effort, it's just losses. I mean, the stats are just considered empty stats when you're losing by that many points. And for Alex Sarr, I think the streak is over. So he only had one block, at least from what I see, only one block tonight. So the streak of getting 2 blocks through, was it 10 games in a row, Ben, if I'm not wrong?
It was 10.
Yeah. It's, again, like Alex Sarr still. One thing I love about Alex Sarr, Ben, I don't know if I mentioned it, but he's always trying to. He doesn't care about getting dunked on, and that's one thing that I also saw with Victor Wembanyama. He'll always try to defend the rim, and a lot of NBA players today, I think it's being a young guy where you just don't care about being on a highlight reel. So that's one thing that I would take away from Alex Sarr's game, at least from what I've seen this season. I didn't see much of it last season, where you get dunked on by Steven Adams, but at least you're going out there and trying to swat the ball.
Yeah, I'd agree with you 100% on that. I like the ability he shows to get up and get back into the game despite, a rough play for him defensively, because he's had his fair share of those as the season's gone along here now. 12 games into it, 12 games into it now, lost 10 games in a row. I want to kind of get sidetracked here a little bit because I actually wanted to bring this point up because I was taking notes throughout the entirety of the game, as I always do. And full disclosure, second half of the game, I wasn't taking a whole lot of notes because it had gotten that bad. So that's to tell you how bad this game had gotten by halftime. I was just kind of watching it to see what was even going to happen the rest of the way. I wasn't detailing too much. One thing I take away from watching the Monumental broadcast is Drew Gooden is seeing so many of the inefficiencies of this Wizards team and the issues that are lying within the effort, yet I don't know why we're not seeing the adjustment come from our coaching staff. At one point I saw Drew Gooden, I heard him, he says, they're playing way too much isolation basketball. See the way they're running this offensive set? You're not going to generate a good offensive look the way they're setting it up right here. And then another thing that comes from defensive effort, he said they're running any set they want from the first pass. He was talking about Houston getting that first pass off every time to get into their offensive sets. And he showed multiple examples of it on the replay where the Wizards do not deny the basketball on that first pass. And Houston, once they're able to get into the flow offensively and start to kind of simulate the way they want to run their offense, a lot of drive and kick stuff, a lot of backdoor cutting, the Wizards had no answer for it. So the fact that Drew Gooden, the analyst for our team, is pointing it out on the broadcast, but we're not seeing any of these adjustments being made is frustrating to me.
Yeah, I agree. I just, anytime I hear Drew Gooden talk, it's majority of the time talking about rebounding and trying to box out and giving better effort. And tonight it just wasn't the case for the Wiz kids. And I'm just hoping, Ben, that this isn't a constant theme throughout the season, because I was talking to one of my buddies, and he's saying, man, 20 wins is looking like a stretch now. I'll be surprised if they barely crack 15. I will say, though, Ben, these 10 games has been a rough schedule because, again, without the Keyshawn George masterclass in Dallas and you play Dallas again, right now you'd probably be looking winless to start the season. And you're hoping that eventually you play some teams that aren't going to be threats in the conference. But, again, you want to play teams, you want to be the underdog because these are the teams you're going to be playing against when you're going to be competing. So I don't know. Like right now, if you're Brian Keefe, Ben, what do you tell these players? You're 1-10 going into the season. You preach the idea of being competitive and playing defense, closing out, and it hasn't been the case.
I'd say you guys got to be better. As a team, we all have to be better. Collectively, the coaching staff, we have to be better. Everybody's accountable for what's happening right now. And I know there's, a lot of people out there will put more blame on some of the players or some of the coaches on the other, but this is a collective thing. When the effort isn't there from one guy, the effort's not going to be there from everybody. Night in, night out, these guys have to take a deep look with themselves in the mirror. You've lost 10 games in a row. Find a way. How are we going to get better? How are we going to find a way to compete? Are we going to sacrifice the way we play offensively tonight so we can compete more on the defensive end? Maybe that's the thing that'll have to happen at some point, because you're never going to win a basketball game giving up 80 points and a half. You're never even going to be close to winning a game.
81.
The Rockets were in our position a couple years back. So they've had like a 2 or 3 year head start in terms of building this whole thing up through the draft and acquiring some more talent to supplement that. they looked like the varsity team. Like, if you're looking at rebuilding teams, Houston's already, they're past the varsity. They're at the college level, basically, at this point, because they're actually a contender in the Western Conference this year. The Wizards are on the JV level compared to them. That's kind of what it looked like in the first half of this game in terms of rebounding, physicality, effort, offensive production, defensive production. The Wizards just had no answer for anything the Rockets did tonight.
Yeah, and they're going to be really good this year. I think they're going to win 55-plus games. I mean, their ability to just move the ball, the high post game, having Kevin Durant as an isolation scorer, it just does wonders for your offense. And we're hoping that the Wizards can, when this young squad starts being competitive, they'll attract superstar talents like Kevin Durant or similar to Kevin Durant in the future, but that's probably 2 to 3 years from now.
Yeah. Real quick, the positives. Alex Sard, 25 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. He did on 10 of 15 from the field. Keyshawn George had some issues with fouls in this one, as he typically does early on. But he did finish with 16 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, and a block, so 3 stocks. For Keyshawn on 7 of 17 shooting. Saw Trey Johnson flash a little bit. Cam Whitmore had a couple moments in this one on 5 of 9 shooting, but didn't see Whitmore play a ton. Outside of the, he got 25 minutes, which I guess was a marginally high number for this Wizards team, but a lot of this game, they were just chasing it from way behind in the second half, so it's tough to even really look at the individual performances when you're trailing by that much in the game.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we see those nights where he doesn't get those 5 minutes a game like we saw against Cleveland, but these past 3 games, he's gotten that 20-plus minute mark. And maybe he's the guy that just comes off the bench and is a microwave scorer, and that's his role. And that's all we wanted when he came here to D.C., Ben, is carving out a role here in Washington, because I know a lot of people are writing him off too soon, and I just think that was ridiculous.
Yeah. All right, let's take one more break. We're going to read your comments. Let it all out when we come back. The Wizards have lost 10 straight. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it. That's where Bilt comes in. Bilt is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards you can actually use. When you pay rent through Bilt, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, and your next Lyft ride, and more. But Bilt isn't just about rent, it's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. I love with Bilt, your rent finally works for you. You're earning points every month on something you already have to pay. Whether I'm grabbing food in my favorite local restaurant or heading to the gym, I'm still earning rewards. Bilt has made everyday life feel even more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into free rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That's joinbilt.com/LockedOnNBA. Make sure to use the link so they know that we sent you. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even try combining your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at that bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. AB, I'll give you the reins. Let it all out, everybody. Let's hear it.
Hit 10, guys. 10 is the number right now, and I see a lot of frustrated Wizards fans. Shout out to Rukus1881. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing to the Locked On Wizards channel. One of the biggest problems, lacks lazy passing, bad hands on catches. There were at times, Ben, and this is a constant thing, or not a constant thing, but as of recently what I've seen with Alex Sar is that his hands do get a little soft when it comes to those pick and roll passes. So we're hoping that as a young guy, he'll definitely learn from that. But again, the lazy passes, Bub Carrington, we saw that with games where he had like 4 to 5 turnovers. And maybe that's due to the fact that the defense that the opposing team is running is just very suffocating, and that's the effort that we want to see from this Wizards team defensively. But again, I definitely see with some of those passes where it's just like easy turnover, and again, that turnover leads to points for the opposing team. Mr. 2 Keys, I gave up, LOL. Tonight was the first game I didn't watch all season. And honestly, Ben, as a Wizards fan, I would tell you that second quarter, you see 81 points given up. It's hard to keep on watching that third and fourth quarter, even though they did make it a game in the third. Being down by that many points and giving up 81 in the first half. And what's crazy is that's not the most you've given in a half, because you gave up 88 in the second half against Charlotte. Again, this whole offseason, they preached about being competitive and playing better defense, and it just really hasn't been the case. So they're hoping to figure it out and fix it up soon. Juice Man, sorry, last one, and I'll let you go, Ben. Sar and George are the truth. I mean, that's what we've been saying. Keyshawn George is so tough. I think he's going to be a really good two-way player in this league. And Alex Sar, I mean, for all the haters and the doubters, they're really quiet right now. He is going to be a really good center in this league. Top 5, top 7 soon. I said it. People thought I was crazy. Let's see how it turns out.
Just to piggyback on some of the points that guys have made here. Yeah, this is tough. At the end of the day, we know this is like part of the plan for this Wizards organization to be bad enough to keep your first-round pick. Hopefully you're going to find get a DeBonsa, Boozer, or Peterson in this draft, and that's going to elevate you to the next level. But losing 10 games in a row, it's not a secret to say that this sucks. It sucks ass. It's really not fun.
And we can't sugarcoat it. It's difficult.
I don't need to tell you that because the players feel that way. The coaching staff feels that way. Nobody likes this. Nobody likes to lose 10 games in a row. That's just the bottom line. There's going to be frustration. We saw that from Brian Keefe tonight. They have to find a way to channel that energy into playing better, to putting in better effort. At the end of the day, yeah, I've had some of my issues with Brian Keefe and the coaching staff so far this year, but the players also got to play better. Guys need to put in the effort on a night-in, night-out basis. Everybody has to be better. Accountability goes around to everybody when you're on a 10-game losing streak. It's not just on one person, not just on one coach. Everybody's got to be better, and I'm hoping it gets more competitive as we go along here.
Yeah, I appreciate whatever you just said, Ben, because, again, if it's like this throughout the season, I mean, it's going to be very ugly, and then you don't want to lose the locker room, especially with a young squad. Wizards need a Ricky Rubio-like guy. Hey, I mean, it would be nice to have a point guard on this team, Darren Peterson, in the future. Maybe. Who knows? Locked on Law, thank you, our one and only. On pace for 9 wins. Yeah, that is rough. I think, Ben, the worst record in NBA history was the Charlotte Bobcats, right? They won 7 games, right?
Wasn't it a shortened season, though?
Okay, yeah, I think it was a shortened season, but still 7 games. I think we can. We'll crack 7, no doubt, right? No doubt. Okay. WizKid forever. Thank you, Ben. The players have to be more accountable for their actions. BK not going to get on the floor and hold anyone's hand. Again, yeah, and we understand this is a young squad, but when you're that young, you got to provide some source of energy and trying to go out there and just be competitive again. We understand we weren't going to go 82-0. We knew we weren't going to win 50 or 40 games this season, but being competitive in every single game is honestly what matters because that's what you're hoping for when this team becomes competitive down the road. I'm trying to pick one without any profanity, Ben, or somewhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of inappropriate comments, aren't there?
Yeah, there's a good amount. If we lose to, I mean, right now the Nets have 1 win too, right, Ben?
They do, and so does Indiana.
Wow. I mean,
look at that. We're not. We've won 1 game and we've lost 10 games in a row. Yet here we are. We're not even separating ourselves from being the worst. It's just crazy.
That's the tank. I think they're going to be calling it the tank ball this Nets game. I mean, if the result is like this tonight against Brooklyn, Ben, it's going to be hard making a post-game reaction to that. You got to find a way to be competitive against that Nets squad.
I'll tell you right now, I don't know what would happen if that were the case, but I think Brooklyn is so bad in terms of talent. I don't know if it could possibly be that bad, even if the Wizards absolutely did not try. If it was the same effort it was tonight, it still would be relatively. This Houston team is talented. That's why I'm trying to make the point. If you're going to play a top-tier team in the Western Conference like Houston, you can't be soft. You can't play with that type of effort. You can't go out there and not rebound, not play defense. Brooklyn is a really bad basketball team, but we're a bad basketball team right now, so I can't say too much.
They can't say much, and I know some Nets fans are saying they think they've missed on all 5 first-round picks, and I think. If I'm not mistaken, Cam Thomas just went out with an injury, right, Ben? Or am I wrong? I don't know.
I'd have to double check.
I have to check. Well, whatever. I think right now Cam Thomas and Michael Porter Jr. are their leading scorers, and they play an interesting brand of basketball that if you somehow get blown out the door by 20 points at home, it doesn't get worse than that, in my opinion. Yeah. Again, Karina, I understand your frustration and the whole $20 a month. I think this season, again, we knew that it was all about the youth movement, and I think there has to be some turning point soon, and I'm not trying to say that they're going to win a lot of games, but I think in the fourth quarter there has to I think there will be more games. Actually, I don't even want to say that. I think we're hoping to see more games of the Detroit game, meaning you'll be competitive when it counts. Obviously, didn't win the game, but it's just we're gonna keep throwing that C word out there because at that point, what else could we throw out there, Ben?
At this point, it's all we're asking for. Sometimes we have to beg for it. I don't want to beg for it. I don't think anybody wants to have to beg for it, but here we are on certain nights like that. You just got to hope at some point it gets better, and you got to stick through it. This is where you're like in the deepest of mud in this rebuild right here. Are you going to be able to get out of this eventually? And if you're a fan, it's so frustrating. I completely understand not wanting to be a part of it, not wanting to watch it. And if you make that decision, then so be it. Like it's a bad product right now. You can't even disagree with that. This is going to have to be one of those things where if you stick through it all the way to the end of this thing, and eventually, hopefully, this team is competing, down the road here, hopefully within the next 2 years, maybe even next year, they take that next step. You just never know at this point. It's going to feel real good if you're a fan to say that you survived through these times, and it's going to feel good for the players if they get through these times. The same way Houston did it, the same way Detroit did it.
Oklahoma City.
OKC. There's a blueprint for this kind of thing. Are the Wizards going to get to that next step? We sure hope so. They're showing some strides and some things that would indicate that they might get there at some point soon, but maybe a little bit even slower than usual at this point, just because some non-competitive basketball the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think right now it's so easy to just give up on the squad, which makes sense. I understand they're not winning a lot of games or any games at the moment, but I think losing right now is going to just to make down the line when we look back and say, man, you have this foundation, you have this young core. I think it was worth the wait. It was a lot of years of being patient because, again, before Will Dawkins, it was just 5 years, like you said. I heard you say, Ben, where it was just the previous regime just throwing players out there and seeing if we can make the play-in or get the A seed and somewhat make it out the first round. But this time, it's no shortcuts, and we just got to be patient day by day. And shout out to you guys watching this Wizards squad game 1 through 82, all 4 quarters. It's tough being a Wizards fan right now because, again, the product on the field is just not matching what our expectations are. But at the end of the day, we just got to be patient. It's competitiveness and patience. Those are the 2 key words.
As they say, Abdullah, you got to see through it, my boy, or girls, if you're watching, of course. We want to thank all you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen today and every single day. The Wizards have lost 10 games in a row. It's frustrating. It's tough, but we appreciate all of you, the everydayers, that much more. We appreciate you.
Shout out,
for sticking with us, a part of this Wizards coverage, because you guys might stop watching the team. We won't. We're not going anywhere. We're going to stick with you.
No, we're watching every second of it.
All 82 games, all year round, 5 days a week. That's what we do here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the nation. Keep it locked on. Locked On Wizards. We'll be back for an episode on Friday. Danny Rouillet from the Grant and Danny Show. He will join the program. We'll record that tomorrow. It'll be out on Friday morning, so we hope you guys will be able to enjoy that one. But for now, that's my co-host, Abdullah Ayubi. I'm Ben Strober. We sign off, DC family.